Hey y'all. So it's been a while since I've given an update on the Chevelle, and part of it is I've been busy and I've only been doing like a bunch of piddly stuff on it lately. So, you know what? I think I'll go ahead and kind of give a summary update of what's been going on and kind of tell from the tagline I put on the video how in the world an inspiration for something on this came from that. I'll explain. Let's get started. So, an explanation. Now, as a spare wheel for this car, I have an extra front wheel. One of these for the front. Now, the fronts are narrower, so if I had a front could fit in the back. Obviously, I couldn't fit in the back and the front, too wide to fit. So I have an extra back wheel. Now, the diameter of these tires, it's the same front and rear, is a little bit larger than stock. So in the factory location in the trunk, it wouldn't fit. And I have no good place to put the jack or anything else. So I'm starting from scratch, trying to figure out how to make it all work. And that's how Aaron had it too. He never had anything set up, but he had the wheel. And it was a low priority kind of back burner thing because obviously I have a lot of more work to do first. So now let me explain how I got where I got. This is my daughter's car, and I mean, it's a Kia Sportage. It's actually a great kid's first car. So I'll just kind of stay with that. But the thing about these cars, I've never understood why you don't get them with a spare tire. You have to get it separately as an option. Well, this got this used and it didn't have it. So I went online. I was able to get the factory kit for the spare tire. So see, it's actually, even as a small car, it's pretty cavernous back here. So now it has a spare tire. But in its place, if you don't get the spare, was this big storage tray that had a big cutout in it, the shape of a tire. And so I like, okay, there's no way. But sometimes you just give the stupid a try. And I'll be damned. It fit near perfect. I mean, this tire even fits perfect in that rounded cutout in the middle. I had to trim a little bit of the foam down here for this latch bracket, and you can't see underneath where the fill tube for the tank kind of comes into the trunk a little bit in the shape. So I just trimmed that, and it fits. I mean, I couldn't believe how well it fits. I mean, it almost fits like it was meant to be there. And I still have little storage trays and all the storage on the sides. I mean, I wouldn't have believed it if somebody told me. That's why I just had to show. So any of you with a 70 to 72 A body and you're trying to figure out what to do with your spare tire, to get a rear storage tray for a 2019 Kia Sportage. Holy crap. Like I said, I never would have guessed. But here we are. So again, couldn't believe it. So I'm actually out here this morning for me because I need to bleed the brakes. The brake fluid was just trash. So I went to bleed it a couple weeks ago, and the bleed screws were rounded off. So I had to go get new bleed screws. I finally got them, so I'm going to flush all that nasty fluid out. I've already exchanged the fluid in the master cylinder, just so I'm not pumping trash through the whole system. All the rust and everything that was in there, that's all clean. So now I just got to pump clean fluid back through the system. So that's going to be my job today. Now the other update, I'm gonna have to go up to the front of the car. Okay, here we are back under the hood again. So, again, it's not gonna look much different, but here's the problem I was having. If you've been following, you know I've been having issues losing oil. I couldn't figure out where. And there were signs of a little bit of oil here and there, and trying to trace it all down and find a common issue. It took a while, and I'm not going to bore you with all those details. But this had the PCV breather system on the valve covers. Turns out what was happening is, even though these valve covers are baffled underneath these ports on the top, this thing was drinking oil up through the PCV like my kids with the juice box. And that was running all that oil through the blower down into through the valves. That's what sort of made it look like it was leaking, maybe leaking valve seals or valve guides, because it's coming dripping through the valve. Well, it wasn't. It was filling the intake ports and dripping through the intake valves. So it took a while for me to kind of figure that's what was going on. And then it turns out too, you're not going to be able to see it, but back here in these valleys on the intake manifold, a couple back here were filling with oil. And it turns out, no, it wasn't really from leaking. And sorry, the lighting's bad. But back here in the back, it turns out that it was, the PCV is on this side. It was sucking the oil in and it was feeding it to both sides, but more so it was feeding it to this side. And the gasket between the blower and the lower intake manifold has a small either crack or something here in the back. So all that oil was working its way out through that, being forced out through the rotor and out into those valleys. Okay, so ditched all that, put push-in breathers on both sides, and boom, there were so many things that were taken care of at once. The thing runs better, there's less blower surge, and I think a lot of that had to do with this constant vacuum that the carburetor, basically the carburetor was sucking through for the PCV. Not just the fact that it was pulling in oil, but that constant vacuum loss. But now that that's plugged, all that air isn't being pulled in through the crankcase. It's being pulled through the air cleaner, through the carburetor, and being metered through the fueling. So, man, this thing, I mean, it ran smooth before, it runs smoother now. The only thing now I just need to figure out is what's going on with this dipstick. Bring the light over. The dipstick down here. I still need to figure out what to do with this. And this had to be some kind of temporary deal, because this is just some cheap Chinesium dipstick. Sorry if the video is shaking a little bit. It's kind of hard to hold. This cheap Chinesium dipstick, it doesn't fit. You try and pull a dipstick out, it takes the whole tube out. Pull the whole tube out of the block. So I need to replace it, but you goose this thing and this will pop the dipstick out of the tube a little bit. So it's either it's very little pressure in the crankcase, but it's just enough to pop that up, and just putting a good dipstick in will fix that, and it's not a problem. Or I really am building up crankcase pressure, and it's of course relieving through here. So I need to figure out what's going on with that. So far though, I don't think it's building up excessive crankcase pressure, but it's still something I'm going to need to address. And so that's really about it for now. I still haven't done those rear suspension control arms yet. Those are still unfortunately in the box. I just have not had a chance to get this out and change those. And this is in desperate need of tires. I haven't had a chance to do that either. Just, you know, family, you know how it goes. So bear with me. It's slow going, but it's going. That's the main thing. Small victories. Small victories. All right, y'all have a good one.